you everybody who's joining us for this Zoom, whether you're a participant or you're just viewing us here generally. We're very grateful that you're here. There are a number of reasons that I wanted to bring everyone together this morning, and I was hoping we could do this in person, but this will have to suffice, obviously, given the pandemic. But we do have the benefit of being able to bring people together from different parts of the country, which is of great value to us. For reasons that'll become clear when you hear who is speaking. And look, as we continue to confront this pandemic, there are so many important issues that we have to address for the American people. And unfortunately, as we've seen, there is a lot of partisanship and a lot of polarization in Washington right now. And often we get caught up in some of that partisan narrative, but make no mistake, that there is some great work being done in the House right now. And I am very honored to be part of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, and specifically to chair the subcommittee on veterans economic opportunity with jurisdiction over veterans housing, homelessness, the GI Bill, transition assistance, workforce development. And in that subcommittee, we have tried, however possible, to make bipartisan progress for the amazing veterans that we're serving. And it really is personal. Having a grandfather who's a World War II veteran, you may not be able to see him. His pictures are up there, but his flag is right there. I know you can see that. But he meant a whole lot to me, and I wish he were here. He passed away. I wish he were here with us to be able to see the work that we're doing for our veterans. And I also have the great opportunity to represent the Marines and sailors at Camp Pendleton and their families. And they've had a deep and profound impact on me, getting to know them, getting to know their personal stories, the service and the sacrifice that they make every single day is truly remarkable. And I believe strongly that we have to do everything we can to serve those who have served so well our nation and protected our country, and that's what we aim to do. And luckily, the House Veterans Affairs Committee really is one of the few places in Washington where we do that on a truly bipartisan basis. And there are a number of bills that we've passed out of committee, passed through the House, and even had signed into law by President Trump. And I think it's important that we recognize those successes, particularly at this time when our politics has become fragmented and polarized. Perhaps as never before, it is important that we remember the successes and that we highlight the common sense results that we can achieve when we work together and get things done. And look, as you'll hear, these bills have a big impact on the everyday lives of our veterans. And we're going to have to keep pushing to make progress on the bills that we haven't yet gotten signed into law. You're going to hear about some that have become law and others that we're still pushing on this morning. I am very proud to have several veterans on the call with me who can speak to the specific importance of these bills. Not only have they served our country, but they're now strong advocates for their fellow veterans and fellow service members. And I am incredibly grateful for their continued service in that regard. Before I turn it over to them, just a few more words about me. I mentioned my grandfather, and from a very young age, he taught me what it really meant to serve and what patriotism and service really meant to the United States. And I think so often about the greatest generation, how they returned home from World War II, and how countless men and women in the decades since have returned to a country that hasn't always served its veterans as well as it should have. And we need to continue to improve and continue to make that right. And that's what we aim to do every single day. We continue to leave too many veterans behind. There are homeless veterans throughout the United States. I've said one homeless veteran is one too many. There are veterans and their families who still are food insecure. I remember earlier this year going to a event in Oceanside where over 1,300 veterans and their families, this is right at the beginning of the pandemic, they came on I believe it was a Sunday, and lined up to get food, basic necessities, and we should never put our veterans in a situation where they don't have the basic necessities that they need. And too many are ending up jobless. We know that before the pandemic, the veterans unemployment rate was quite low. It was around 3.5%. The estimates are now that it is tracked like unemployment in the for the greater population during the pandemic, now triple or quadruple what it once was. So we have a lot of work to do to get that number back down to where it was pre-COVID. And we're very committed to that. And that continues to be a key concern of mine as chair of the subcommittee of jurisdiction. So I have some really great guests, as I mentioned, and it is unusual to have a bill named after you. We've got two people who have bills named after them. It is even more unusual for the bill that is named after you to make it through the House, through the Senate, land on the president's desk, have it signed into law. That puts you in really rare company. And our first guest had that happen recently. Army veteran Ryan Kules, who is also director of the Wounded Warrior Project's Combat Stress Recovery Program. I was very proud to introduce the Ryan Kules and Paul Benne Specially Adapted Housing Improvement Act with my friend and subcommittee ranking member, Republican Gus Bilirakis of Florida. And I'm going to turn it over to Ryan to explain what the bill does, why it's so important. But again, to share one spoiler alert, President Trump signed this bill. It is now the law of the land, and it is a huge win for countless veterans. So Ryan, the floor is yours. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be on and share the good news of HR 3504 being signed into law. So I'm Ryan Kules with Wounded Warrior Project. I was wounded in 2005 by an improvised explosive device and lost my right arm and left leg, and I had countless surgeries and recovery, and part of that recovery was getting back into a home of our own to be able to start a family that really was kind of put on pause after my injury. And really want to say thank you for, sir, your leadership on all these needed legislative changes. I just want to share a little bit about the impact that this change will have. So the VA offers a specially adaptive housing program, which provides grants for severely wounded warriors to make modifications to their homes, like ramps, making accessible bathrooms, widening hallways, to make sure that the houses they live in are able to allow them to function and really make those houses a home. This law increases the benefit amount to make it so that those needed changes for those severely wounded warriors are not going to be their personal responsibility to make, not only now, but for the foreseeable future. The change that was made will make the benefit renew every 10 years, which allows veterans to know that there are changes that they need now will grow and adapt with them as their disabilities change, maybe become more severe, more impact them at a greater level. Also, another needed change was made to include blind veterans in the category that is approved for this grant. Previously, blind veterans had to additionally lose a limb to be able to qualify, and we're able to make a change in order to allow blind veterans to qualify for the special adaptive housing grant. Also, allowing folks to access the total amount up to 6 times versus 3 really gives a true sense of flexibility for severely wounded veterans as far as when and where they are wanting and able to move. And knowing from personal experience, having been able to utilize this grant and be able to make some needed modifications to our home, and then being able to move to suit a growing family, and those modifications then became our own out-of-pocket responsibility. That's something that shouldn't have happened. And knowing that the changes that we made will allow veterans to be able to be set up for success in the homes that they live in, and their homes will be able to be modified to ensure that they're able to function and be successful, so that they can live their lives in comfort and this benefit really has made some changes to really extend that. And it really is a pretty darn cool thing to know that this is going to impact generations of veterans, knowing that folks that served in previous conflicts are going to be able to access funds they didn't have availability for, and knowing that future generations are going to be able to be comforted and be able to be successful in their homes is something that my family, organization that I work with, and many veterans are very proud of, and your leadership, sir, very much played a huge role in making that happen, and can't thank you enough.
Well, you're an inspiration to us, Ryan, and just know that your tireless dedication to this cause is really what made it happen. And I thank you, and I thank the Wounded Warrior Project for years of advocacy on this. And I hope that you do know what a big impact your work has had on countless veterans who will be able to now, because of this law, retrofit their homes, retrofit their cars, make life substantially easier. And it's just breathtaking when you really consider the long-term impact this is going to have on so many veterans and their families and their quality of life. So again, my thanks to you. And really, I want to thank the whole team that worked on this. And our staff does not nearly get thanked enough, but I know that Faith Williams is on from my personal office, has just done an outstanding job working with you, working with our House Veterans Affairs Committee. I want to thank the House Veterans Affairs Committee as well for doing a great job, and the staff there. And also on the Senate side, this wouldn't have been possible without Senator Moran, Senator Tester, and everybody working collaboratively. Of course, on our side, Chairman Takano, Ranking Member Dr. Rowe, everyone worked together on this. And I also want to thank the two veterans that work in our district office, Andy Ortega and Gabby Ochoa, for doing all of the casework, meeting and interacting with our veterans each and every day. And it's my great hope that many of our local veterans in the 49th district will be able to now, with these new especially adapted housing policies in effect, will be able to dramatically improve their lives in a way that wasn't possible before your bill, Ryan. So we thank you. We thank you very much. Next, I want to turn it over to my friend, Brian Talley. And I've had the honor of working with Brian since introducing the Brian Talley VA Employment Transparency Act last year. Brian even has a t-shirt with #TallyBill. He definitely wins for best marketing. He's also rocking a great COVID-inspired quarantine beard right now. But Brian is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. He was severely harmed when doctors at the VA hospital in Loma Linda, California, misdiagnosed a life-threatening infection. And to make matters worse, when he pursued a claim against VA, they denied him legal recourse by concealing key information. Totally unacceptable. And Brian, hearing about your experience with the VA was beyond troubling. And I am pleased that you'll have a chance to share that story today again for our listeners. You should also know that I introduced the Brian Talley VA Employment Transparency Act with my Republican colleague who was then serving in the House. His name is Mark Meadows. You probably have heard of Mark Meadows. He has a pretty important job down the street now at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, working as the White House Chief of Staff. But it is another example of how we come together on a bipartisan basis for our veterans. And I'm grateful to Mark Meadows for working with us on this bill. We've got to keep fighting. Again, my objective is to see Brian's bill have the same disposition as Ryan's, which is to get it over the finish line, to get it past the House, the Senate, and then signed into law. We had a great markup the other day in the House Veterans Affairs Committee where we explained the urgency of this, the importance of this, and just the common sense nature of what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm very hopeful that we're going to get over the finish line. But Brian, the floor is yours. Please tell us your story a little bit.
Thank you, Congressman, and I also want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. From me and the entire veteran community in this country, thank you for being a champion, a great champion. That you have a great staff. Faith Williams, unreal. We've got a great working relationship, and Ryan, thank you for your service and everything that you have done. To protect all veterans in this great nation, especially ones that have lost limbs like yourself. Serving this great nation, in conflict. So definitely something that every veteran in this country deserves. And, and your leadership, Faith's leadership, and the leadership from you, Congressman, it speaks volumes. So thank you. And I'm very honored and proud to be a part of this Zoom conference today. To begin with my story, back in January 2016, bone-eating staph infection that was eating my spine and internal organs. Several trips to the VA ER, was turned away and was just injected with very high-end opioids like Dilaudid and Kenalog and methocarbamol, and just sitting home with bags of pills. This went on for months and months and months as I was dying in my chair. A guy that was living the American dream prior to January 2016. Because of what has happened, with my health and such, I lost my business and lost my family vehicle, and, we've lost so much. And, when all this stuff was going on, health-wise, I had to file a tort claim for loss and pain and suffering and, everything else that came along with it. When I filed my tort claim with the VA, they came right out and they were very sincere and apologetic and stated that they were going to settle my claim, and that they were very sorry, and that what had happened to me, being eaten alive, by a bone-eating staph infection for over 4 months, is something that's horrifying to go through, just on the pain level itself, not to mention the permanent injury that was left because of it. At the 6-month mark, the VA said that they were getting ready to settle my claim and to be patient. And right at the 1-year mark, we received a letter in the mail that stated that they were no longer responsible for the injuries and for the medical malpractice and gross negligence that took place, because they had found that the doctor that was found guilty of this was an independent contractor that's working within the halls and the walls of the VA. Now, when they sent this letter, they stated that I needed to sue in state court. When the letter was postmarked, it was 3 days past the California state statute of limitations, which left me with zero recourse, zero accountability, and frankly, zero transparency. This hurt my family and I tremendously. Completely leaving yourself hopeless and helpless. And at that point, I was 99% done. I was giving up. And that wasn't who I was as a person. I had 1% left to give, though. And that day, 2 years ago, when I said I was going to go all in on this and I was going to make a change, I meant that. And I began to get 1% better every single day. Now, my story is a little different than a lot of other guys. I don't have a congressman. I live in the only district in the United States of America that does not have a sitting member of Congress. So over 2 years ago, I had to effectively draft an online legislative team to draft a bill in congressional form to present to Congress. But nobody was taking me serious. So I had to board a plane and walk the walls and the halls of Congress with pain pills and anxiety pills to get me through these days 2 years ago to hand deliver this first draft of the tally bill to ensure the rights and protections of all veterans. We caught the eye of Congressman Dave Pratt, and he was not reelected, so we had to start over again in the 116th Congress. We found Mr. Meadows, and now we have you on board because you are a neighboring congressman to Temecula, and you've decided to step up and be a champion of this law. the reason why the tally bill is so important is because, look, medical malpractice is going to happen. There's no way around it. And there are great doctors in the VA, but look, you could be a doctor of 20 years and have a really bad day. And when that happens, there needs to be accountability and there needs to be transparency. And the veterans, the VA needs to be open and transparent to the veterans that they, that they serve. And when accidents and mistakes happen, in my case, and for generations of veterans cases, there needs to be a clear path of legal recourse, because it's not just the veteran that suffers. It's the veteran's spouse. It's the children of the veteran. It's anybody who loves and is connected to that veteran. They all go through it. And right now I'm 4.5 years into my story, and we have, continued collateral damage. A week ago, we moved, so now I'm in Texas. I had to come to a state that's more affordable, that still has a, great, family values and, and the same quality of life I was living in Temecula. But, the cost of living and all that, I don't have a business anymore, and we've held on for so long. And we finally had to make a move that was going to, be better for my family in the long run. And, that was a tough decision to make. But hey, at least I have a congressman now, right? But you'll always be my congressman.
Thank you, Brian. I'm honored. I will always do whatever I can to help you too.
Yeah, I know, I know that. So anyways, the tally bill is going to ensure the rights and the protections of all veterans once they file a tort claim. There's a 74-year VA legal loophole right now that's designed to kind of deflect liability away from the VA, and they put it on the backs of these unidentified independent contractors that are working within the VA. You don't know who they are. They have VA badges, VA doctor's coats, they see VA patients. Everything would describe them as VA employees. But this is how the Office of General Counsel can get away with not settling rightful claims for medical malpractice and gross negligence. So a lot say, hey, well, that's criminal. That is fraudulent type information there. That should not be happening. It doesn't need to be happening. And right now we are living in a state of injustice. There's lots of injustice going on in the United States right now. And I've got to say, this is probably the biggest injustice in the VA right now, that when veterans fall victim to this type of malpractice, they get put on their knees physically, mentally, and emotionally, and knowing that they've got a claim out there to where they won't lose everything they have ever worked so hard for in their life. To know that they go for the kill shot on that, on that final, course of compensation, that clear path of legal recourse. Another reason why this is so important is that when they deny your claim based on a technicality and an employment status, by the time they let you know that this happened, again, you have no recourse in state because the state statute of limitations have expired. So therefore, denying my right to see a judge, my right of due process, again, leaving the veterans hopeless and helpless. And with veteran suicide out there being a hot topic, this all can be connected to a lot of things. This will protect all veterans, 20.2 million American veterans in the 8 million active in VA care right now. So again, we are running out of time. This is something that needs to happen this Congress, because I'm running out of energy. I only got so much energy left, and I've dedicated my life to this, literally. Again, we need to ensure the rights and protections of all veterans, and we need to remove the Office of General Counsel's ability to cherry pick these fall guys, to cherry pick these clinicians based on employment statuses so they could see their way out of these claims, which again is horrifying to any veteran and their family that's going through medical malpractice and life-changing scenarios here due to no fault of their own. So, there's just so much to be talked about here. And, like I said, my story is very wild. That's over the course of 4.5 years. And, like I said, not having a congressman to the bill dying in the 115th Congress, to working my butt off in the 116th Congress with faith and, with yourself, and just doing everything we can to ensure that we get this across the finish line. And to ensure that the VA is transparent to the veterans that they serve. So, sir, there's so much to the story, as you may know, and your listeners, if you want any more information on it, just go to tallyteam.net. We're also on Facebook at Rally Around Tally. And what we've done is we started this grassroots effort, across the country, to create the necessary awareness that's needed to get this 74-year VA legal loophole completely changed and updated to 2020 standards. So thank you, sir.
Ryan, you're amazing, man. Thank you so much. And if anything, hopefully hearing from Ryan just now, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If we keep working hard and we keep persisting and we grow that coalition, we tell that story, I think that we're going to have great results in all of this, just as we did with Ryan's bill. I wanted now to turn to a local constituent of mine, Jeffrey Jones. He's an Army veteran from Oceanside, California, right in the heart of our 49th district. My staff worked with Mr. Jones to make sure that he got the housing that he and his family needed. And that type of constituent casework is really, for me, what makes this job so important. As I mentioned earlier, we've got to do a better job of ensuring that our nation's heroes have the housing assistance that they need. And oftentimes it's incredibly difficult to navigate the various programs and agencies involved in providing those services. As I like to joke with my team, they know the alphabet soup of programs and services that our veterans have to deal with every day. That's what makes them, I think, so great at what they do. Back in June, I introduced something called the Homeless Veteran Coronavirus Response Act, again with my friend Gus Bilirakis, the ranking member from Florida. And it was also co-sponsored, and this was a very good sign, by the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Subcommittee, Mark Takano, and the ranking member, Dr. Phil Rowe of Tennessee. And the Senate companion to the Homeless Veteran Coronavirus Response Act was introduced by Senators Dan Sullivan, a Republican, and Kirsten Sinema, Democrat, co-sponsored by the chair and ranking member in the Senate, again, Senator Moran of Kansas and Senator Tester of Montana. So that is a great start for a bill to have the chair and ranking members of the appropriate committees. So I feel really good about this. COVID has affected tens of thousands of homeless veterans as shelters have closed and as funding for vital services has become strained. That's why we need this bill, simply stated. And what it would do is allow the VA to use existing funds for a wider range of services, authorize VA to collaborate with outside organizations, loosen restriction on the grant and per diem payments, and require the VA to ensure that veterans participating in VA homeless programs have access to telehealth services. So as someone who has had challenges navigating housing assistance programs in the past, Mr. Jones, I was hoping you could share a little bit about your experiences and talk about why we need to do more to support our housing insecure veterans. Mr. Jones, thanks again for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Congressman Levin, for introducing the Homeless Veteran Coronavirus Response Act and other bills that have been already discussed. I salute you so much, Mr. Congressman. I could have not made the journey. My family would have not survived the journey without the assistance and leadership that you offered. We had, I worked with several other agencies. I'm a VFW Life member. I work with DAV and others, affiliate associates in the area. But the biggest one was that we applied and we went through all the process, filling out the paperwork, with housing and city of Oceanside. And the biggest thing was the length of time it took to process applications and other, there were, I wouldn't say roadblocks, but they were very long delays. And but through your office, things were able to get done at a respectful time, and it cut that time way in half. And so, to all the other veterans and veteran families that are pursuing housing right now, reach out to your local organizations, reach out for help. The Congress office, Mike Levin, he would be there to help you for guidance. And so that has been life-changing for my family, because doors were closed. And the biggest one, I would say that at the end of the day, everyone says call 211. In San Diego County, they have a enormous resource department, but the thing is, you dial 211 and you call the organization that they tell you to call, and then you call, and then you call, and then there's no return calls. There's no, or you get a call back and we don't have funding, or we can't help you, or, we're closed. And so that was the very frustration part of it and the reality of it. But the programs do work together collectively as a joint effort. We were able to get through this, and Gabby, she was a liaison. My hats go off to her. I mean, she coordinated with you, Congressman, and things got done. Things got done. When they said you're not going to get housed, it'll be January. You won't even be in a place for Christmas. And I commend Gabriella. She got right in there and made those calls, and we moved in I think a week before Christmas. And so I am just honored. I'm so happy that you're our congressman, a man of valor, going to Washington, D.C. for us. And we stand behind you, Mike. We stand behind you 110. And I look so forward to working with you, your office, and Gabriella here in the future. I'm a disabled veteran. I got 70% disability, Service Connect disability. Up for a review board coming up for 100%. And there's some other challenges upstream that I'm facing, and Gabriella is going to try to assist me with getting those claims in. And to other veterans out there, please don't give up. Don't give up, as we have all sacrificed our lives and places to serve our nation. Stand firm, and it's a lengthy process to get the claims approved, but just stick with it and be patient and keep filing and keep filing. I've tried now for years, and finally I've just received my Service Connect this year. And so it does work, but you really have to be patient and have those mentors in place, and God, with the help of the Congress and God, you'll make it. So that's all I have to say, but thank you so much for this time.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, and all credit really belongs to Gabby and Andy in our district office. When we started to assemble our team, our district office staff, I wanted to make sure that we had at least one veteran on the team serving veterans, given that our district has one of the highest number of veterans of any in the United States. And I also wanted to try to have the best veteran casework of any congressional office in the United States. And we were very encouraged not only to be able to hire one veteran, but we hired two, both corpsmen, both deeply rooted in service, and they are both amazing. And I'm so grateful to them for the countless veterans that they have been able to assist in the last 2 years. And Jeffrey, whatever I have to do in my job pales in comparison to the service and the sacrifices that you and others who have served this nation have made. So the honor is all mine, and I'm glad we were able to help. I wanted to turn it over finally to Matt Roman. And Matt is an Air Force veteran. We got to be fair, right? Although I don't think the Navy's represented. Is that right? We got 2 Army, 1 Marine Corps. I guess we'll have to be through the Marine Corps. We'll have to say that the Navy was here. But I know Andy and Gabby are here, and as corpsmen, they can represent the Navy. But Matt is an Air Force veteran and is with the San Diego Workforce Partnership. And he participated in job readiness programs during his transition from the service, and now helps veterans and other San Diegans with their careers through the Workforce Partnership. With that background, I know that Matt understands the importance of transition assistance and retraining, which is the focus of the Veterans Economic Recovery Act of 2020, another bill that we'd like to discuss. That one I introduced with Ranking Member Dr. Phil Rowe of Tennessee to provide more assistance for veterans during COVID. And the centerpiece of that bill is a rapid retraining program to provide unemployed veterans and reservists with 12 months of educational benefits to pursue training in high demand occupations. The education benefits available under the rapid retraining program would be equivalent to the benefits provided under the post 9/11 GI Bill. That bill, the one I just mentioned, is bipartisan, and both the chairman and ranking member of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs joined us as well. Again, that's a really great step. So I am hopeful we're going to move that legislation as soon as possible. And Matt, thank you again for all your work and for joining us to say just a few words about what you do and why bills like the Veterans Economic Recovery Act are so important. Matt, take it away.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you for having me present and having this forum to express how important funding like this is to veterans and the families of veterans. Just a quick background, I transitioned out of the Air Force in 2013. I was living in Charleston, South Carolina at the time, and in late 2014, I decided to move back here to San Diego. And when I came back, I recognized that I was in need of intensive job search assistance. I had jumped from various roles in retail and insurance, just trying to discover that career. So once I realized the need for services like this, I began receiving those intensive preparation services with both the California Employment Development Department Veterans Team and the Wounded Warrior Project. So big shout out to you, Ryan. I've been an alumni member for some years now and have loved it since day one. So in this job search readiness, what got me to the position where I'm at was receiving services such as resume reviews, mock interviews, receiving those job leads that otherwise wouldn't come, attending workshops, and then the retraining opportunities that you were just mentioning, Congressman. So when I was able to take advantage of those, that just opened up so many doors to end up where I'm at today. So to highlight more reasons why funding like this is just so vital to all of our communities. When funding like this comes into local agencies like the San Diego Workforce Partnership, we're able to develop programs that that can appoint somebody to point the veteran in the right direction and to say, this is the way, this is how you do this, this is why you're doing this. Additionally, veterans can learn about the local labor market, so they can identify those companies, positions, and more importantly, they can negotiate a salary that is suitable to them and their experience. Working with local agencies, we can share how to connect that military experience and translate it into the civilian workforce, and more importantly, setting realistic career goals. Additionally, there are supportive services. Wounded Warrior Project has been wonderful with providing services like that. So clothing for interviews, or if you need some tools for a job that you're about to embark on, having those supportive services can literally be the deal breaker with employment. Other opportunities that come from it can be something like subsidized on-the-job training. So when a candidate isn't necessarily bringing in 100% of the skills, programs like that can make the veteran a lot more appealing, and thus increasing the odds of retention. And then really the biggest key here is the advocacy. One lesson that I've learned from my transition is that it's not about who you know, but who knows you. And funding like this just opens up so many doors and opportunities. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. And I'm really grateful to all four of you for sharing your stories, for your continued leadership. It really is an honor and a pleasure to get to work with each of you. Before I turn it over to questions, there is one other bill that I wanted to mention that was actually signed into law by President Trump earlier this month. And it's an amendment that I introduced to the Service Members Civil Relief Act, SCRA, along with Chairman Mark Takano and Ranking Member Phil Rowe, to address personal financial losses that some military families have suffered as a result of the stop movement order issued in response to COVID. Some military families were in the midst of a permanent change of station move when the Department of Defense issued a stop movement order, forcing them to pay multiple housing or car leases, one for their current duty station and another at their intended PCS. The amendment that we passed, that the President signed, it expands the list of orders that qualify for lease terminations to include a stop movement order issued by the DoD in response to a local, national, or global emergency for a period of not less than 30 days. I'm proud that we could get that signed into law, but we can't stop there. We need to keep fighting for the Veterans Economic Recovery Act, the Homeless Veteran Coronavirus Response Act, the Brian Talley VA Employment Transparency Act, and much more. And those are just a few of the bills that we continue to work on. But once again, I am incredibly grateful, not only for the advocacy of everyone on this Zoom, but for the opportunity to have been given this assignment to chair this subcommittee with jurisdiction over these critically important areas for our veterans and for their families. And it has been an incredible honor in my first term, before anything, really the first term is out, to already have multiple bills signed into law is something I'm incredibly proud of. And when I look back at my first term, getting that gavel as a freshman was an amazing opportunity. We're doing everything possible to make the most of that opportunity. We'll continue to do that in the months and years ahead, working with our partners here on the Zoom and everybody else in the veterans community.